Peasant uprisings have been a recurring theme in the history of ancient China, driven by various factors, including oppressive regimes, heavy taxation, social inequality, and natural disasters. These uprisings often played pivotal roles in the rise and fall of dynasties. Here, we'll explore some of the most significant peasant uprisings in ancient China, detailing their causes, events, and outcomes. The Taxation Uprising, also known as the Qian Wuguang Uprising, is one of the earliest recorded peasant rebellions in Chinese history. It took place during the final years of the Qin Dynasty, which had unified China in 221 BCE, but soon became infamous for its harsh laws, heavy taxes, and forced labor. Oppression and heavy taxes. The Qin Dynasty's legalist policies were extremely harsh. Peasants were subjected to severe punishments for minor infractions, and heavy taxes were imposed to fund the emperor's ambitious projects, such as the construction of the Great Wall and his mausoleum. Forced labor. Many peasants were conscripted into labor, particularly for military and construction projects. The burden of forced labor was immense, leaving many families destitute. Natural disasters. Floods and famines exacerbated the already dire situation, leading to widespread hunger and desperation. Chen Sheng and Wu Guang, both low-ranking soldiers, were ordered to lead a group of peasants to the northern frontier. However, heavy rains delayed their journey, and they realized that they would be executed for arriving late. Facing death either way, they decided to rebel against the Qin authorities. Chen Sheng declared himself the king of rising Chu and quickly gained a following among the discontented peasants. The uprising spread rapidly across the eastern part of the Qin Empire, with numerous local leaders joining the cause. However, due to a lack of coordination and military experience, the rebellion was eventually suppressed by Qin forces. Though the uprising was crushed, it significantly weakened the Qin dynasty, paving the way for its eventual collapse. The rebellion also set a precedent for future peasant uprisings, demonstrating that the masses could challenge imperial authority. The Red Eyebrows Rebellion occurred during the Wang-Mang interregnum, a brief period between the Western Han and Eastern Han dynasties. Wang Mang, a usurper who established the short-lived Qin Dynasty, 923 CE, implemented radical reforms that disrupted the social and economic order. Radical reforms. Wang Mang's reforms included the nationalization of land and the redistribution of wealth, which alienated the landowning elite and disrupted traditional agricultural practices. Economic hardships. The reforms led to economic instability, with widespread poverty and inflation. Coupled with natural disasters, such as floods and droughts, these factors created unbearable living conditions for the peasants. Social discontent. Wang Mang's attempt to restore the ancient Zhou dynasty's social hierarchy was deeply unpopular, as it disregarded the existing social order and created confusion and resentment. The Red Eyebrows, named after their practice of painting their eyebrows red to appear more intimidating, were one of several peasant groups that rose in rebellion against Wang Mang. They initially operated as bandits, but their movement grew as more peasants joined their cause. The rebellion spread across northern China, and the Red Eyebrows established a rival regime in the Shandong region. They eventually captured the capital, Chang'an, and killed Wang Mang in 23 CE, ending his dynasty. However, internal divisions and leadership struggles weakened the Red Eyebrows, leading to their defeat by the restored Han Dynasty in 27 CE. The Red Eyebrows Rebellion played a key role in the restoration of the Han Dynasty, which would go on to rule China for several more centuries. The rebellion also highlighted the dangers of radical reforms that failed to take into account the needs and interests of the common people. The Yellow Turban Rebellion was one of the largest and most significant peasant uprisings in Chinese history. It took place during the Eastern Han Dynasty, and marked the beginning of the end for the Han Empire. Religious movements. The rebellion was led by Zhang Jue, a Taoist healer and the leader of the Way of Supreme Peace, Taiping Dao movement. Zhang Jue preached a millenarian message, claiming that the Han Dynasty had lost the mandate of heaven and that a new era of peace and prosperity was imminent. Economic inequality. The Han Dynasty's land distribution policies had led to the concentration of land in the hands of a few wealthy families, leaving many peasants landless and impoverished. Corruption and mismanagement. The central government was plagued by corruption, with officials often exploiting the peasantry. This led to widespread disillusionment with the ruling elite. The Yellow Turbans, named after the yellow scarves they wore on their heads, launched their rebellion in 184 CE. The uprising quickly spread across northern and central China, with millions of peasants joining the cause. The rebels initially enjoyed significant success, capturing several cities and defeating government forces. However, the Han government eventually mobilized a large army, including many regional warlords, to suppress the rebellion. After several years of brutal fighting, the rebellion was crushed, and Zhang Jue and his brothers were killed. The Yellow Turban Rebellion severely weakened the Han Dynasty, leading to its eventual collapse and the subsequent period of disunity known as the Three Kingdoms era. The rebellion also had a lasting impact on Chinese society, with many of its ideas and grievances influencing later uprisings. The Five Pecks of Rice Rebellion, also known as the Celestial Masters Rebellion, occurred around the same time as the Yellow Turban Rebellion and was similarly rooted in religious movements. The rebellion was led by Zhang Daoling, the founder of the Five Pecks of Rice sect, a Taoist religious movement. Zhang Daoling preached a message of spiritual salvation and social reform, attracting many followers among the peasantry. Economic inequality. Like the Yellow Turbans, the followers of Zhang Daoling were largely drawn from the impoverished peasant class who were dissatisfied with the Han government's policies. Natural disasters. Floods, droughts, and famines exacerbated the economic hardships faced by the peasants, driving them to seek refuge in religious movements that promised a better future. Zhang Daoling's movement gained a large following in the Sichuan region, where his followers established a theocratic state. The sect was named after the requirement that each follower donate 5 pecks of rice as a sign of their devotion. The 5 pecks of rice sect established a well-organized community with its own laws and military force. They were able to resist Han government forces for several decades, but eventually they were defeated by the warlord Cao Cao in 215 CE. The 5 Pecks of Rice Rebellion contributed to the weakening of the Han Dynasty and the rise of regional warlords. The sect survived in a modified form, and its teachings influenced later Taoist movements in China. The Lucian Rebellion, also known as the Lucian Rebellion, was one of the most devastating conflicts in Chinese history. While not purely a peasant uprising, it had significant support from the peasantry and resulted in massive loss of life and destruction. Military corruption. Lucian, a powerful military governor, became disillusioned with the Tang Dynasty due to corruption at the imperial court and his own personal ambitions. Economic inequality. The Tang Dynasty's policies had led to the concentration of land in the hands of a few wealthy families, leaving many peasants landless and impoverished. Heavy taxation. The government's reliance on heavy taxation to fund military campaigns and lavish lifestyles led to widespread discontent among the peasantry. Lucian, with the support of his troops and many discontented peasants, launched a rebellion in 755 CE, declaring himself emperor and establishing a rival state. The rebellion quickly spread, and Lucian's forces captured the Tang capital, Chang'an. The Tang government eventually managed to reclaim the capital and defeat An Lushan's forces, but the rebellion continued for several more years, even after An Lushan's death. The conflict resulted in the deaths of millions of people and left much of northern China in ruins. The Lushan rebellion severely weakened the Tang dynasty, leading to its eventual decline. The rebellion also marked the beginning of a period of instability and fragmentation in Chinese history, known as the Five Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period. The Huangqiao Rebellion was one of the most significant peasant uprisings during the late Tang Dynasty. It was led by Huangqiao, a salt merchant who became a rebel leader. Economic hardship. The Tang Dynasty's economic policies, including heavy taxation and the monopolization of the salt trade, led to widespread poverty and discontent among the peasantry.